Hello and welcome to that 90s Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, James Simpson. Today, very special guest. He's a former 4-time OVW Heavyweight Champion, Tag Team Champion, and a 2-time WWE Tag Team Champion, the one and only Mr. Doug Basham. Doug, how you doing today, sir?
Doing great, buddy. Thanks for having me on the show, pal.
Oh, my pleasure. When you respond to my message, so if I just happy to come on, I was more than happy. The Ruthless Aggression era is like everyone's favorite era is the new generation. The Attitude era. I think I'm the only person who likes the new generation. But Ruthless Aggression era is the era I remember mostly because I was going through my teenage years. So to have one of the stars from that era on the show, my pleasure.
It makes me feel how old I am when you say your teenage years. You know, it makes that was like 20 years ago. Good gravy. Woo.
Yeah, a lot of people's looking back with fond memories now, and they've been doing the documentaries on the WWE network. So I think a lot of people is giving it the respect it finally deserves because there was so much talent during that era.
Oh, yes, there was a ton of talent, and I was just lucky to be able to be up there with them during that time. You know, so and I watched some of these guys on TV, you know, and was like kind of fans of them as well, and then to be able to get moved up and actually work with them, man, that was like a dream come true, man. Working your dream job, working with guys that you watched on TV that you idolized and wanted to be like, and come to find out, they're actually all really good guys and can actually go and learned a lot from them actually.
Awesome. So I suppose we'll start at the beginning. So your childhood and your route to wrestling was a little bit different because I think I've got this right. Was it your auntie who got married to Nightmare Danny Davis? Was that right?
That is correct. I was going to college at the time, and I was going to Indiana University here in Bloomington, Indiana, and I was going to school to be a doctor. I was going pre-med, so I was going to be a doctor and heal the people that wrestling damaged. And then my aunt married Nightmare Danny Davis, and he wanted to slow down and get off the road, and he opened a wrestling school, and he called it the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Professional Wrestling. Man, I forget the date. I think that was like 1991, maybe 90, 91, somewhere around there. And he opened the school in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was just a little matchbox place. I mean, it was a broom closet, basically, just big enough to put a ring in. And it was a small ring, a hard old boxing ring, and it was hard as concrete floor, and had like a crappy restroom, no pun intended, and then just big enough for his desk. I mean, it was small, yeah. And it was hot. It was hot in there, and it was dirty. But that's where he started his school, and then he moved over to Indiana, found a little bit bigger place because he wanted to start running like a weekly show. And he called it the Future Stars of Tomorrow. And he was still the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Professional Wrestling. And then after about a year of training people and having some of his own guys, he started running shows and then started putting into works the Ohio Valley Wrestling. He started having plans to start the company. And I guess I cannot remember when OVW was born. I should know these dates. I feel bad because I was the first one, right? The OVW original. When you think of OVW, you think of Nightmare Danny Davis, who started it. Then you think of his first student, me. So I should know this stuff, but I don't. I'm going to want to say probably like 92, maybe 93-ish, when he started Ohio Valley Wrestling, and then started building his own stars and putting people out there. So that's kind of how I got started. I was working at the hospital. I had a job in a hospital in Louisville, Kentucky, and I wanted to go check out the wrestling one day. So I called my Aunt Faye, said, "Hey, you think Danny would let me come and see his school?" She said, "Yeah." So I go over there, and it's just me and him, and he goes, "Get in the ring and, run the ropes." And I hit the ropes a few times, and I went, "Whoa, man, this hurts. What is wrong with this?" And then he goes, "Well, hit the turnbuckle." So I ran in the turnbuckle, and I went, "Oh my gosh, that hurts too." People think that, wrestling is that F word, that rhymes with rake. But your body takes some abuse just learning. And I got hurt the most of my injuries came from the very beginning days of learning. So that's when I, got injured the most. But that's kind of how I started. Yeah. And then Danny, after that first day, I was pretty athletic. And he sat back and like the next day he said, kid, I think you're a natural. You might want to think about doing this. Come back next week. I said, okay. And then that's all it took.
Awesome. And I mean, there was some great talents which we'll speak about who made it through. But one of your first feuds and talented guy, Nick Dinsmore, you've had some great matches. It's always great to try and find these old OVW matches and that. Like, if they're not on the network, you find them, on YouTube. And it's great seeing the old stuff. And Nick Dinsmore, one of the great talents. What was he like to work with during these days?
Oh man, Nick was one of the easiest guys to work with in OVW. He was so smooth, and he was so good and talented, and he was very athletic as well. And some of my best matches in OVW were with Nick and Damage and Rob Conway, Danny Holly, Danny Basham, aka. Those were some of my best matches probably ever in my whole career. Because we all just gelled well, and it was just easy. It was easy.
What was your thoughts when Nick Dinsmore was given the Eugene character gimmick? Obviously, he had a very, very limited shelf life, and today's obviously culture and things, it would never get on TV. So when you saw him be given this character, was you thinking, is this a rib?
No, man. I was thinking, hey, good for him. He come up with something, got himself on TV, created a character, and made a little bit of money. So that's what we were all trying to do, because we came from a wrestling background where we were trying to be workers, wrestlers. And, WWE is sports entertainment, and more characters. So we had to when we moved up, we had to find our niche and come up with something that would stick and that would translate into the ring. And Nick did that, and he almost did it too good. It made you think, is he really?
It was at the time, like a lot of people shits on it, but it was super popular at the time. I think people forget how popular it actually was.
Yeah.
Someone who wasn't a fan of it, and he's very closely associated with OVW in them days, Mr. Jim Cornette. I was Cornette to work with. I mean, he's definitely one of a kind.
Yeah, Jimmy is he's great. I have a lot of respect for Jimmy. He taught me a lot and helped me a lot with my career. And but Jimmy's got his own ideas, his own opinions about wrestling the way it should be, because Jimmy he's an old school guy, and it's professional wrestling, whereas WWE is sports entertainment, and Jimmy hated that term because it's all supposed to be wrestling.
Yeah.
But it's just a difference in opinions and a difference in beliefs, I think. But Jimmy's not wrong.
Well, he's on record all the time, like on his podcast, which is a great podcast. Everyone should listen to it. But you're his favorite student. He's got nothing but praise for you every time. So you must got a couple of fun Cornette stories.
Oh, I got a bunch. I got a ton of Jim Cornette stories, both good and great and even better. You know what I mean? But some of those stories I like to just keep to myself. But just got a lot of respect. He taught me a lot, especially when it comes to promos and being able to write TV, and how his mind works, and how you think several steps ahead, and you just don't have knee-jerk reactions. Everything you do has a reason. Everything he did and storylines and everything he wanted done, there was a reason for it, and he had a plan. The guy was just a genius when it come to writing televisions and directing and producing, and he had a vision. He's if not the best, one of the best when it comes to producing, writing, and everything for a wrestling show. A lot of nothing but mad respect for Jimmy Cornette.
Do you think the wrestling business itself is missing Jim Cornette? And are you surprised he's not working for a major company, or do you think he knows he's ready for retirement, I suppose? And His fight.
I don't know, Jimmy. I believe Jimmy had just had enough. Wrestling always seems like wrestling always evolves, and you've got to evolve with it, or you'll get left behind. But at the end of the day, it's still wrestling. You know, that's what the W stands for. One of the W's in World Wrestling Entertainment stands for. A lot of companies, you get in there and you're still wrestling. But the styles today are kind of wild and crazy, and a lot of acrobats, and seems like choreographs and all that. People are just out there wrestling instead of going out there and telling a story and putting on a good show and working and sucking in the people and listening and putting them in the palm of your hand. Instead, people are just going out there and doing what they want to do, whether the fans like it or not. And that's just kind of my vision, what I see these days. And I think maybe Jimmy sees that as well, and he just can't stand to watch some of it, and he just throws his hands up and goes, blah, whatever. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, part of our show, that 90s Wrestling podcast, obviously it's doing interviews, but we also review 90s WWE pay-per-views, and we're coming to 93 now, and 92, 93 is Bret Hart's years, and every time he's doing a match, he's just telling the story every match, and we've just reviewed King of the Ring 93, and he's got them 3 matches, and every match was a different story for a different opponent, and we do miss it in wrestling.
Yeah, because that's what we are. We're short storytellers, and if you can go out there and tell a story and take the audience and suck them in and draw them into what you're doing and make them do what you want them to do, you're a professional.
Yeah. And while he was down OVW, he was multiple-time tag and world champ. And one of the people you did face who defeated you for one of them title reigns was Leviathan, aka Batista. What was he like during the early days?
Oh man, Dave was. He had a heart as big as he was. He was just a big giant teddy bear. He looked great. He looked like $1 million, and always looked like $1 million. He was a very, very soft-spoken guy, and but a hard worker, and he kind of got it and understood. And I knew that just because of his look that he was going to be a star and make a lot of money in the business. But I didn't know to the extent of what he was going to be a star, movie star. But he was very good at. I don't know if politicking is the right word, but he had a very good sense in mind of what to do and when to do it. And he listened. That was the main thing. And then working with him in OVW was so easy. And that match that we had where he won the title, he was so easy and so fun to work with. And the thing I remember is when he hit me with that big power bomb and the 1, 2, 3 hit. Like the place wasn't that big, but the crowd went nuts and blew the roof off of it when he finally got that 1, 2, 3. And that is a testament to, one, Jimmy's writing the story and having the storyline with Machine and Leviathan and building to that. And then two, Dave and I going out there and telling the story in the ring and making everything make sense to finally get the end result, which was what we got, the people just going nuts. And then he went on to be a great champion as Leviathan.
Yeah, and that 2000, year 2000, 2001/2002 years in OVW, some of the stars like yourself, Batista, Danny, Cena, Brock, Shelton Benjamin, Orton, the names are endless.
Loaded.
That talent pool, I don't think I've ever seen like a developmental what had so much talent in that. And what was it like being surrounded by all this young talent at the time?
Well, it's to be a part of that group or of that talent pool and being able to work with those guys in OVW and then work with them in WWE. I think that was a very rare, a one-time only situation that ever happened that I can remember been a part of in wrestling history, period. So it felt good to be a part of kind of like wrestling history, I guess. But to be there, whenever I was in OVW, and when Jimmy brought the development, Jimmy and Danny, when Jimmy joined OVW and then helped get the developmental deal, and all these guys started coming in, guys like me, Nick, Rob Conway, Damaja, another guy, Frank Miller, who was Trailer Park Trash, Flash Flanagan. There was a lot of us that had been there for 6, 7, 8 years and had a lot of experience already. So these guys were coming in green, maybe fresh off the wrestling school where they went, or maybe had a year experience or something like that. Jimmy and Danny put them with us to help mold them and bring them up to speed. So I don't want to say that I trained all those guys, but I did work with all those guys a lot and help them develop their skills and get them ready for TV. So being a part of that group, and as successful as they were, like Orton, Brock, Batista, Cena, Benjamin, and others like Mark Jindrak, Sean O'Hare, and several others that came through and went up. It was actually a pretty momentous. It's very memorable, and something that I'll always cherish for as long as I live in my career, that I was a part of all that and helped those guys develop down here in Ohio Valley Wrestling, because it took me 10 years to get to the WWE. It took them guys 10 months.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on I don't know if you've been following NXT much or WWE lately, but NXT is currently going through a rebrand, because for the past few years, NXT, I suppose you could say, it's been this kind of like Ring of Honor-esque promotion where it's been a lot of indie talents and a lot of smaller guys like 5'8", 5'9", all about 190, 200 pounds. But the new mandate now with this NXT 2.0, Vince is looking to start bringing in younger guys under 30 and all like 6 foot plus, sorry, and like 200 plus pounds people. And one guy what stood out straight away is Rick Steiner's kid, Brad Steiner from Breaker. I've been saying to people, I'm like, give him the 2002 Brock Lesnar main roster push. He's a star. But it seems to be the kind of going back to that OVW format with bigger guys what's capable in the ring and focusing on big characters and new stars. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's a good formula to follow, personally. You know what I mean? People go to wrestling, at least I think so. This is my opinion. People come to wrestling to watch big guys beat the crap out of each other. I want to come and I want to go pay my money and pay a ticket. I want to yell and scream for my favorite guy, and I want him to be the biggest guy on the roster, and he's my gladiator. That's what I'm putting my money behind, and I want to cheer for him, and I want to see him beat up another big guy. But with the way wrestling has evolved, you've got wrestling today has a little bit of everything. You got some big guys, you got giants, you got high flyers, you got lucha, you got a little bit of everything. I can't say that I don't agree with a lot of stuff that happens in the ring, like when people get dropped on their head and they get up like nothing ever happened to them. Can't say that I agree with that. I don't know why they do that and why somebody doesn't go, what are you thinking? But and all that does is it sets the bar even higher. So what else are you going to do? If you dumb it, not dumb it down is not the word. If you bring it down a little bit and make everything mean something again, you might be able to get people involved and hook them again. I don't know if any of this makes sense. I kind of went on a little bit of a right-hand ramble with my opinion about where things are today, going back to the NXT. I just didn't agree with a lot of the things that these kids were doing and the way they were doing them, and not getting the full benefit out of the stuff that they were doing. And just kind of doing stuff just to do stuff, not making it make any sense because it looks cool. Everything that in wrestling, and for anybody that's listening to this that is a wrestler, everything you do has to have a why and a meaning why you're doing it. And if you can tell that story, you'll always have a job and you'll make a lot of money. So back to the NXT and wanting to bring in the bigger guys, and I see nothing wrong with it. I like it. Reminds me of OVW. That's all that came in back in OVW were some big dudes in the developmental.
Yeah, cool. And one big group, the Revolution, yourself, Damage, Lady Victoria, Miss Jackie, and such, and great group. What was it like? Because up to this point, besides from your point where you was working as the Machine, like when you was unmasked, you was always, I suppose, babyface. What's it like portraying a heel and being part of this big group?
It was awesome. I'll back it up a little bit and let's give a little bit of a history. When Ohio Valley Wrestling first started their TVs, you know, I was on the first TV. I got to work with a guy by the name of I don't know. Some people may have heard of him, Tracy Smothers.
Oh, yeah.
that was the first guy. That was my first match on TV with him, and I was a babyface. You know, I was All American Doug Basham. I was not real big. I needed to pack on size and get bigger. And I worked a full-time job also, and I worked in a factory for Ford Motor Company, and I had to my shifts made it to where I could no longer do OVW TV, so I had to take a break and get off TV for a while. But I was still doing the house shows on the weekends and stuff. So I took this opportunity while I tried to move my shifts and get to where I can come back to TV to actually put on size and grow. And then I had this idea. I finally got my, like 2 years later, it took me 2 years. I finally got my shifts worked out to where I could come back on TV. So I went from about 100 and I don't know, 80, 85 pound frame to about a 220 pound frame, packed for 2 years, packing on size. So I totally changed my body. I had this idea that I watched a movie called 9mm with Nicolas Cage. And there was this character in there called Machine. He wore a mask and wore black leather pants and was a killer. And I'm like, that is an awesome wrestling character. So I brought that idea up to Jimmy Cornette and went and got the outfit and showed him. And he goes, love it. I love it. And he goes, you'll cover up and you totally change your body. Nobody's going to know who you are. And sure enough, nobody knew who I was for the longest time because I kept it hidden, and everybody kept their lips tight. Everybody wanted to know who Machine was, but nobody would talk. So I forgot where I was telling you a story. What was the question? See how I get going.
Revolution.
The Revolution. That's right. I brought that idea up to Jimmy, and Jimmy loved it, and then Jimmy wrote for it, and then started up the storyline where I was sending people in to take out Nick Dinsmore, to take out the Damage, to take out Rob Conway, those guys who were there, because, you know, I was jealous and I wanted to take over the company because the storyline went that, you know, my uncle Danny liked Nick much better than me. And, you know, I was jealous. So I was going to just wipe him out and take the company and take what was originally mine. You know, he was supposed to promise I was supposed to be the superstar. But he brought in this new kid, younger, you know, bigger, stronger. So that was kind of the whole backstory behind all that come out later. And then whenever we started, you know, the storylines went, we started taking some guys out. Then out came Machine. And then I had my little group. We had the faction, and the Revolution was born, and had a really good run, you know, for the whole 2-3 years that I was there with as Machine, you know, and did some of my best work and some of the best TV that I had written for me from Jimmy. So that was a lot of that. All that was Jimmy. He wrote it, and I performed it.
Awesome. And eventually you went to Raw, and it was in the fan questions, but I might as well bring it up now. So Stephen at Rocket Heart, Jim Cornette tells the story about you going to Raw and them shaking their heads. Major heel in OVW. So what's your recollections of the offense?
Oh man, so it was actually SmackDown. We went, Danny and I first got, I had a mullet, right? Had a bunch of big a mullet is what I called it, because, and I had a big old head of hair, and I had that because when you punch, you know, the hair would fly and it, you know, water would go off. It just had a really good look to it. and good visual when somebody would punch me and I'd fall down and stuff. So I got moved up to get taken a look, and without Danny. And I had a couple of weeks. I was up on the road. Did a bunch of singles matches on the house shows. Did some dark matches before the TVs would start, and then maybe got on a couple of the velocities and stuff. And then they brought Danny up and put us together as a tag team to take a look at us, because Jimmy was like, they're a tag team. They look at him, they look great. So we went up there and we worked together. And then Johnny Laurinaitis wanted to, because Danny couldn't grow hair, but I could cut my hair, and they wanted to see what we would look like bald. So they said, Doug, we wonder what you would look like bald. So what do you think I did? I'm like, okay, they just told me to go cut my hair. And I'm like, oh man, this is okay. They're paying my checks. They're writing the checks for me. I guess I better go see what I look like bald. So I went, cut my hair, showed up to TV the next day at OVW TV. Walked in, and Jimmy just went, you guys have heard the story, I just went bananas, like, what the blah, 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 you look like a 40-year-old truck driver. I'm like, Jesus, Jimmy, 40-year-old truck driver. I think I look younger without hair, but it's funny now. Back then it wasn't, but because his reasonings was correct. We could have really drew an angle and wrote a story, and I could have cut my hair that way and lost it, and it could have meant something. But I think that WWE just kind of like to mess with Jimmy a little bit. Not a little bit. They like to mess with him all the time just because they thought it was fun and they get giggles out of it, which, wasn't right. But, I worked for the WWE, and I had to do what they, asked me to do and wanted me to do. So that's how the Basham Brothers were born. Cut my hair. They looked at me. They looked at us together. We went out and worked together, and we did the switches and stuff and got away with it. And then the Basham Brothers were born.
Awesome. And quick follow up on that, and it was another question at Green Rob 24. So he asked to go along with that story. How does it feel to be partly responsible for the infamous Jim Cornette leaving the message on the answering phone? Thank you for goodbye to Johnny Ace.
I probably Jimmy probably would thank me for that, because anytime he could get on the phone and cuss Johnny Ace out, he'd love the opportunity. So you're welcome, Jimmy.
Awesome. And so one of your first appearances as the Basham Brothers was in the bar brawl at Vengeance, featuring, I think, the APA, Sean O'Hare and that. What's it like doing a bar brawl? Is it as as violent as it looks, or is it?
It's the first time I ever got paid a lot of money to drink beer, and throw somebody through a window. So, and I think I did something with an Easter bunny too. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun. It was a shame, because how can you have that much fun, drink beer, and get a big payday? That should be wrong. That should be wrong. Yeah. But it was fun. It was entertaining and fun. It was
cool. And they paired Linda Miles with you, Shaniqua. How was she to work with?
I thought working with Linda was good. She was very green. I don't think she was quite ready, but she took direction pretty well. And as far as being a dominatrix and stuff like that, I think she was a little out of her element and wasn't super comfortable with it. So she did the best she could with it. And I got nothing bad to say about Linda. I just think that maybe she just needed a little bit more training and a little bit more understanding about wrestling, because I think they sent her back down to OVW to get more training, and which they brought her up a little too soon, but she looked like $1 million. I've never stood next to a woman that, and I was always in great shape, that was in better shape than me, and I was like, good night. So she was definitely a freak to look at, not that's no mean in a bad way, mean in a good way, like a freak of nature, something like China-esque, you know. And we did the best we could, you know, when she was up there with us, and we did what she was able to do. And the good thing about all that, we had Fit Finley was our agent a lot of times, because he was the agent for the women. So we had him giving us a lot of good ideas and things to do. And I would come up with ideas and ask Linda if she could do this. Can you power bomb somebody? Can you choke? Can you do stuff? Can you, put a boot up? And, she would go out and work and do the things we asked her to do. And, it's just unfortunate. It was kind of short lived. And I think it may have been just because of her inexperience.
Yeah, I think she was pretty much straight out there, tough enough, and they just brought her straight in pretty much. So perhaps
Yeah.
a bit more training, it would have worked more. But it did work in the beginning because you defeated Los Guerreros to become tag team champions. What's it like working with Chavo and obviously the legendary Eddie Guerrero?
Man, at that point in my career, I'd been wrestling and working for about 10 years. So I thought I was pretty good, and I had a really good handle on everything.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew my stuff until I got up there and worked with Eddie and Chavo. Boy, did I learn even more. I mean, working with those two guys was just it's like going from high school to college to play a professional sport, and then college to pro. It's kind of like we went from OVW college to WWE pro, and you had to step up your game. And I had a great mentor, teacher, and coach in Eddie to help me and Danny come along and bring us bring us up to their level, because even though we were good, we hit all our spots, we did everything correctly. We still had some learning to do to be WWE ready. So working with those two guys was a lesson in itself, and it was great. And Eddie was just fantastic to work with. Loved working with Eddie. Learned a lot from him.
And how was when you and Danny got told you were winning the tag belts? How much partying did you do that night after you became tag champ?
Well, I'll tell you what. We went out and had the match where they said we were going to win the titles, and me and Danny were like, "Oh man, awesome! Our dream's going to come true. So we got to go out and perform and do the best we can." So we went out there. I think we rocked the house with Eddie and Chavo, and then we came back and went through Gorilla and went back through the little hallway there and stood and waited for Eddie and Chavo to say thank you. And Eddie was the first one. He comes through. He come up. He gave me a big hug and grabbed my head, and said, "Congratulations, you earned them. Now represent them. Good luck." And Eddie said that and hit me on the shoulder and walked off. And then Chavo came up and said, "Good luck, congratulations, guys," and gave us both hugs, bro hugs, and said the same thing to Danny. So and then me and Danny just stood there and looked at each other, and we were like, "This is a dream come true, man. This is why we got into wrestling, to work for the WWE and become a champion of some sort. It doesn't matter, tag, heavyweight, US." So it was, as far as partying goes, we really didn't, me and Danny, we didn't go out and party when we were on the road and stuff, because, he had a family, I had a family. And besides TV, you've been on the road all week long. And I think we just wanted you had to get up at like 4:00 in the morning to go to the airport, and you didn't get to your hotel till about 1. So there was not a whole lot of partying, but whenever I got home, I did my partying when I got home. Yeah. So yes, there was definitely some running around the house with just the title on, jumping up and down, woo, screaming out the balcony, "Look at the champion!" And people looking at me like, "What the world's wrong with that guy?" So there was that. That's when I celebrated.
Awesome. And Brock was the world champion at this point as well, and obviously you've seen him go through OVW and get the mega push when he moved to the main roster. So how was Brock as the world champion?
Brock was great, man. He's well deserving. He's one of the hardest workers that you could even fathom when it come to wrestling. And he was a fast learner. He was, like Kurt Angle. He's a fast learner. Picked it up well. Of course, he was a collegiate, champion wrestler himself. So the wrestling portion of it came easy. The performance part of it came even easier to him. So having him as world champion, young, big, strong, probably one of the strongest men that has ever grabbed a hold of me ever. Brock grabs a hold of you, a man has got a hold of you, and you know it. Just so strong, but good guy, great guy. I have no problems with Brock. Helped Brock when he was down here in OVW, and was happy to see that he went on to have and still have a super successful career.
Awesome. And Paul Heyman was head of creative at this point. I think I've got it right. He was head of creative at this point on SmackDown. So, how was Paul to work with, and what was he like pitching? And to me, two of the greatest idea men in the history. Well, in the top three, in my opinion, Heyman, Jim Cornette, and Pat Patterson. So, you've worked with Cornette, obviously, and I would imagine you've worked with Patterson bits and pieces, possibly. But Heyman was in charge of SmackDown. How was Heyman to work with?
Oh, Heyman was great. He, of course, everybody has their ideas, and everybody has their own way of wanting to do things. Like Jimmy has his way to do things. Paul had his way to do things. Other people that would come to you had their way of wanting to do things, and they'd give you just the direction that they wanted to see you go, and you did the best you could to satisfy it, because they'd be the producers. You do the best you could to satisfy what the producer want, and hopefully that what you did come off great. So working with Paul was, not really that much different than work with Jimmy. It was pretty much the same. Didn't get to work with Pat that much, because Pat was on Raw, and really mainly dealt with a lot of the $1 million guys and worked with them. And, we were the mid-card to mid to upper mid-card guys and tag, and worked a lot with Fit Finley and Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko. Those guys would work with us a lot as being our agent. But as far as writing goes and all that, I don't know 100% how much of the writing Paul did for us, other than when we went to ECW and we were Paul Heyman's henchmen. He kind of took over there and had some direction for us. So that's been my extent with Paul Heyman. And, I had no issues with him, and liked him as an individual.
Yeah. And eventually you lost titles to Rikishi and Scotty, and Shanika went back down to OVW. But at that No Way Out, we spoke about him earlier, Eddie, and he became the WWE champion that night. And how beloved was actually Eddie, like, behind the scenes? Because everyone's, like you've mentioned earlier, you've got nothing but good words to say about Eddie. But the night he became the world champion, and like yourself, you've worked many years, getting to that point, becoming tag team champions. And Eddie, we've heard the stories, what he's gone through, and eventually he became world champion. Was it just like everyone was just so happy for him when he became champion that night?
Oh yeah. Because a road hard traveled, in Eddie's career and Eddie's life, and what he overcame, and the challenges he overcame with his demons, and then finally being one of the smallest world champions ever, I think, was Eddie. We're talking about height wise, because Vince likes big guys, but he loved Eddie, and of course Eddie produced. Anytime Eddie stepped in there, he produced, and everybody was happy for him whenever he finally climbed that mountain to the top and was a world champion. He represented the championship well too when he was there. All his matches were always good. He was just a true professional, in the ring, out of the ring. He's had a great mind. I mean, entertaining as all get out. Just I can't say enough good stuff about Eddie, and I don't think you'll find anybody that will say anything bad about him, to be honest with you.
And one of the things you could say, definitely a bucket list moment. And when you think about it, only so many people was actually able to perform during this point, but WrestleMania in MSG, WrestleMania 20, how did that feel?
I'll tell you what, if you were to go back and you were to watch the full entrance when me and Danny came through those doors, there was a split second where I totally broke character and marked out and was like, oh my God, whoa, Danny, we're here. Of course, that was a split. I did all that in a split second, and then it was going back to work. But that was one of my goals in wrestling. Why I got into wrestling, I wanted to be in a WrestleMania, And that was my first WrestleMania at Madison Square Gardens, where it all started. I mean, history again. I don't have the words to describe what I was feeling when I was in there. But for that split second, man, I turned into that little bitty kid that was 3 years old that saw wrestling for the first time. It was like, oh, you know, it was the best feeling in the world, because I had made it to the WWE. I always wanted to work for Vince. 2, I became a champion, and then 3, a WrestleMania. So I had accomplished all 3 of my goals. That was preset whenever I first stepped foot in a wrestling ring.
Awesome. And tag team you worked with a bit after this as well was Charlie Haas and Rico. And I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think I'm correct. In fact, Rico's had some health problems lately, but he was another standout performer coming through OVW, and he was so entertaining, like on the main roster, so funny as well. How was Rico to work with?
Oh, Rico was a sweetheart of a guy, man. And thing about Rico, always had a smile on his face. He was always positive and energetic, and just one of those guys that you just would want to be around. If you're having a bad day and you're like, oh, where's Rico? I need to feel better. You know, Rico come around and give you a big hug and go, it's gonna be all right. and then uh, and then his entertainment value in the ring was, he was so entertaining when he was Rico, the stylist or whatever he was. He played that part to a T, and did such a good job. But he was a little bit older, and he was a little bit, injury prone. But he didn't let injuries slow him down. He worked through them. He was a true professional himself.
Was. And speaking of professionals, and you definitely got the job done. That tough enough to get the flag competition. I mean, leading up to this point, we had the infamous Kurt Angle, Daniel Puder, Kimura spot, and the Big Show body slam challenge. So when they went to you to be like, right, we need you to do this, how did it come about? Because it was an infamous moment.
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, that the Tough Enough kids were, kind of embarrassing our stars a little bit, with the Big Show body slamming and them just popping right up. It's like, and then Kurt Angle almost getting tapped out. But in Kurt's defense, Daniel Puder would not have key locked him or even gotten close if Kurt would have been 100%. He had that pinched nerve in his neck, and he only had about 50% strength in his left arm. I think it was his left arm that he hooked him with. So Kurt was not 100%. If he would have been, that would have never happened. Trust me. I've seen Daniel Puder, a year ago or so like that, and we talk about that moment, and I tell him the same thing. I said, whoa. I said, that would have never happened if he would have been 100%. I goes, you got him, and he didn't have the strength to pull, get out, or whatever. And that's why you got him. He goes, oh, come on. I'm like, no. So I got to clear him up on that. But so that wouldn't have happened. But still, it did, and it kind of, it was sort of a black eye a little bit. So they put and then that's when they went and had the guys do stuff with the divas and stuff like that to, hopefully forget about that. And then they brought up get the flag, and they brought me and Danny out, because me and Danny were just kind of on the shelf, not really doing much for the company. We were doing a lot of enhancement matches for guys, but we didn't care. We don't care. We didn't care if we won or lost. We just wanted to be used and get on the road and make money. You know what I mean? Because if you're sitting at home, you're out of sight, out of mind. And also, are we going to, every time that phone rings, like, who is this? Am I getting fired? So we go out there, and we walk through the segment, and Al Snow brings out the Tough Enough kids, and they get in the ring, and we kind of walk through so they know how to get in and what to do after. And, then Vince pops up in the ring and comes up to me and Danny. And, I've told this story before on another podcast, and I think somebody took my words and twisted them somehow. So I'll try and make it very clear on here. He gets up in the ring and talks to us, says, now, boys, short of killing anybody and hurting any of these kids, do not let any one of them get that flag. He goes, you see that flag over there? You see that symbol? You know, it's had the WW symbol on the turnbuckle. He goes, that's what you're representing tonight. And he goes, pops, ha, all right. You know, and
no pressure then.
Yeah, no pressure, boss, no pressure. But you know, then I looked at Danny and I said, Danny, did we just get put on notice? I said, are we gonna get fired if they get that flag? But so that's, you know, he wasn't telling us he was going to fire us. I want to make sure and get clear of that, because somebody else took something that I said and twisted it around a little bit. But he was like, don't let him get that flag. Okay. We're like, yes, boss. And none of them got it. And then after that, you know, me and Danny became part of the Secretaries of Defense with JBL, right? So as a reward for stopping those kids and representing the WWE, as a reward, we got put in with JBL and the cabinet. And per JBL and Undertaker's pushed for us to get into the cabinet for reward. And Vince said yes. I put them in harm's way, and they did good. They represented. So here you go, boys. Go make some money. Make the best of it. So that's how that kind of happened. And
cool. So joined the cabinet. So must have been a pretty sweet gig, because obviously JBL's the world champion at this point, and Orlando Jordan was getting a push as well. So for them to bring you in, and obviously getting used back on weekly TV in a prominent role again as a reward must have felt pretty good.
It was. It felt good because we went out there during that tough enough portion of the show. We did our job, and you know, and also we didn't know this until a little bit after. Me and Danny were in the ring, and people don't know this, but we were told that Bob Holly and Charlie Haas were waiting on deck. So if any of those kids got the flag, they were going to go out there and put them in the ring and redo the whole thing. So I was like, oh, good thing we didn't, let them get the flag and represent. So also, whenever we were going to become a part of the JBL, the night that we debuted, and we were sitting in the stands with masks on as like fans, and Danny popped Booker T, and then I popped Eddie. That was an idea that came up from Booker, because they were just going to have us come running down and jump in and stop them. And Booker stood up, or spoke up for us and said, "Oh no, we're going to bring these boys in. Let's make an impact, and let's don't be lazy. Let's be entertaining." And he said, "Let's have them stashed in the crowd and this and that." So, kudos to Booker for speaking up for us on that point, on that bit. So, and that's how the Basham Brothers became part of the Secretaries of Defense.
Yeah, and it led to another tag team reign for yourselves as well. So, how did it feel becoming two-time tag team champions?
It was great. It felt good again, being two-time WWE champion. The company, all eyes were on the cabinet. I think JBL was a champion. I don't think Orlando had the U.S. title yet, and JBL actually was pitched the idea for the cabinet to have all the gold going into WrestleMania, and then all of us losing it coming out of WrestleMania. But they had a different direction they wanted to go with that. But because I think we lost the titles to Eddie and Ray. I think Eddie and Ray, yeah, because to help their storyline along. I think that's when Eddie was becoming champion or turning heel. I can't remember. I've been hit in the head a lot. I can't remember how everything went.
How was Ray to work with? Everyone I've spoke to says he's the best.
Oh man, Ray was so easy. For such a small guy, he was the heaviest guy I ever worked with to lift, and I think it was just ribbing me. But no, working with Ray was awesome. It was like a dance, man. He's so good, and he and I, when it become between me and Danny, whenever we were working with Ray and Eddie on house shows, I went in there and did a lot of the his lucha stuff with him and flying, and because Danny just wasn't as Danny was good, don't get me wrong, but he just wasn't as agile, I guess, as I was. and I could do a little bit more of the work with Ray, and Eddie would work with Danny a little bit more. But Ray was just awesome, awesome to work with, and I mean, just a stellar guy. I mean, we're talking a top 10, top notch guy in the ring and out of the ring.
And it's kind of similar to when we mentioned Brock coming through OVW and being the world champ. John Cena that night at WrestleMania 21 came and defeated JBL to become the world champion. And are you surprised with how big he's actually gone on to become like a household name, movie star and such?
I didn't see it coming. I knew John was talented, when he was in OVW, and he was very quick witted and could talk on the microphone. His wrestling work was, subpar. It wasn't the greatest, but you don't have to be the greatest wrestler to be one of the greatest draws for the company, and he was very entertaining, and he earned a spot. It wasn't easy for him to get there. He had to bust through the glass ceiling, and he did, and then just became popular with the people and sold a ton of merch. And he produced when he was given the ball, he ran with it. So good for John.
And one of the most famous moments a couple months after this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but I'm pretty sure you was there, was the ECW One Night Stand.
Yeah, and, I was there. Yeah. Oh,
like
man.
JBL looked fairly intoxicated, and a few others. It seemed like you were just having the biggest party up there.
Yeah, I don't think he wasn't intoxicated. None of us really were intoxicated. We had maybe one or two, but we stayed level-headed because we had a job to do. But let me tell you, walking into that arena, we were standing outside. We came through the front doors. Walking into that arena, I was nervous. I was like, because you could feel the hatred from those fans towards us. And I was on, when we were walking through the crowd and going up to that booth, I was on watch. I was like, man, I want somebody to shank me or hit me with something, So my eyes were just on. My head was on a swivel, just looking for anything shiny or just anything, because I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't calm down or take a breath until we were up in that balcony, But I have never felt hatred before, and I felt it that night, and which was awesome, because I contribute all that to JBL, because he just did a great job getting heat with that crowd and that fan base. And man, did we get that heat rub off of him? it was great. It was good stuff. It was really good stuff.
What was his reactions when Paul Heyman cut that infamous promo? Like, the only reason JBL became champion because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays, and like it's what was his like up there? Because JBL was such a great character in the way he could perform. He was like, But when Heyman said it, what was your figure? It was like, ooh.
No, it was just a good one. I'm sure he said something else too, but or JBL said something, but I can't remember what he said. It was, if he would have had a microphone, it would have been. Did he have a microphone? I don't think so. But if he would have had a microphone, he would have had a good comeback for him, because JBL's very quick. So I think Paul said that, dropped the mic and left or something like that. I just can't remember every. I can remember it, but I can't remember every moment that happened. Yeah. But JBL was very quick-witted, and if he would have had a microphone, he would have had some sort of comeback for him, or at least an attempt. But that was a good one. Good one by Paul.
And one guy we haven't mentioned, we mentioned him briefly after that Tough Enough Get the Flag segment, but Undertaker, and he's known as the locker room leaders. How was it to be around during this few years he was on SmackDown?
Oh, Taker was the godfather, man. He was. If you needed to ask some advice about what to do, or if you had any questions about anything, you can go to him, and he's going to give you solid advice and stuff to do. And just being, just having that aura of being the leader, and leading by example, working hard and always doing the right thing and making the right decisions. And being able to actually work with Undertaker was awesome too. Couldn't believe how good this guy was. So it was an experience that I'll always treasure, and something that I have in my career that I can say that I got to work with Undertaker. I was in the same locker room with the Undertaker. I was on the same airplanes with Undertaker. I was on the same show as the Undertaker. I've been in the ring with Undertaker. I've taken the last ride from the Undertaker. Being able to say stuff like that is just it's good. My wrestling resume, it makes it look that much better.
Awesome. Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead, buddy. I'm done.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, and after this, they split you up. They moved Danny to Raw on the draft, and they gave you short singles runs. How was it for yourself during this time to start doing a bit more singles work again?
Well, it's Vince McMahon came to me and Danny, and when they were going to do the draft, he came to us and said, "Boys, we're gonna split you guys up. Doug, you're gonna stay on SmackDown. Danny, you're gonna go to Raw." And he goes, "I want you guys to come up with character ideas for yourselves and present them." And then he walked off and said, "Okay, all right." And then he walked off. We were like, we should have been more prepared and ready for this than we were.
Yeah.
I tried to come up with an idea that just didn't translate well. Vince didn't get it. I didn't get it. My original idea, when I took it to a writer, was a new writer, a guy that took my idea, turned it around, turned it upside down, turned it inside out, and made it his, and then brought it back to me and wrote some stuff for me. And I'm like, what? I don't get it. And I almost was going to just trash the idea the guy came up with and just do something on my own. And I didn't do it. I should have followed my gut, and I should have done it, but I didn't. Maybe I would still be there if I would have done it my way, but my singles career was very short-lived with the WWE, and that's the one thing I didn't get with the WWE as a singles run. And I think I would have had a successful career if I would have followed my gut with something instead of doing what I was asked to do. So I don't know if that answered any of your questions.
That's it perfectly. And you had a short stint again down in OVW and moved to ECW, like you mentioned earlier, security. And eventually you left WWE and done a stint in TNA. But you worked all over Europe and the UK tours as a single star again. How was it working over Europe?
Man, I loved it. I loved the travel. And the one thing that I wanted to do before I actually retired and hung up my boots, I wanted to travel the world and wrestle and actually go and stay and engulf myself in the different country and the culture and the lifestyle. And so I got to do that for a couple of years. And some of the best fans in the world are over there in England and Ireland. They love wrestling, and always greeted me with, it's like they loved the old, foreign wrestlers, I guess. Being over there, I've been a foreign wrestler. And they loved to come up and talk and take pictures. And sometimes they just wanted to, in Ireland, they just wanted to hear me talk because I talk differently than them. And they thought that was cool. And I'm like, I don't have an accent. You have an accent.
Yeah.
But, and then going over there and working with some of the greats over there, like Doug Williams at the time, he was really good. I got to work with him. And another guy by the name of Mandrake, in Ireland, he was really good. Of course, this was 15, 12, 11, 13 years ago, I guess. But, traveling overseas, I love traveling overseas, Japan and Australia and Europe and England. Loved it. It was a great way to end my career.
Oh, yeah. And you went back to the medical field again. But wrestling, they say wrestlers never quit the wrestling business. And you got a phone call to come back and become a trainer at OVW. So how'd that come about?
Oh, man, let me tell you how that happened. Al Snow. Oh, what a rib. Thank you, Al Snow. You got me. I was every now and then I'll get fan mail, and they'll send me letters and pictures and ask me to sign them, and I'll sign it and send it back to them if they have a self-addressed stamped return envelope. If you don't, I don't know the address, I can't send it back to you. Just a heads up for anybody that watches and hears that. Make sure you have a self-addressed stamped envelope. I'll send it back to you. But I got this some pictures and a letter from a war veteran, a military veteran here in the States. And he said one of the things, and he wrote me a nice long letter. And he was a wrestling fan and watched OVW and watched WWE and was just a kind of a fan, and told me thank you, and which meant a lot. And he goes, one of the things that helps him with his PTSD is signing, getting wrestlers' autographs and putting them in a book and stuff like that. So that meant a lot to me. And I had these pictures, and there's a restaurant close by my house called Harbor and Hops. And I went to that restaurant. I've been going there for like a year or so. And as I had these pictures on the bar showing the bartender, because he was a wrestling fan too, and I'd go in there and we just chit chat. The owner of the restaurant walked behind me and said, "Oh, hey man, I took those pictures." And I stopped and turned and looked. What? He goes, "Oh yeah, hey, I'm Greg. I'm owner of the place here." And he goes, "I've seen you in here quite a bit, and I thought you were familiar, and just come up and introduce myself." So what had happened was, Greg used to take pictures for the WWE and for OVW back when Danny just started Ohio Valley Wrestling. And then he got to talking and showed me some of the pictures. Like, oh yes, I remember. And then since then, me and Greg have become really good friends, and we go golfing and go to eat at his restaurant and hang out all the time now. Really good guy. And his brother Mike as well. So he had all these pictures that he had taken and was wanting to know if Danny or Jimmy or Al, who now owns OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, wanted some of these pictures for whatever. So I said, okay, let me make contact and see. So I contacted Danny and Jimmy, and I had Al's number, but I asked Danny. Al wouldn't mind if I called him. He goes, no, I'll call him. So I called Al. And this was during the pandemic when things were just starting to open back up a little bit. And Ohio Valley Wrestling, the Davis Arena is in Louisville, Kentucky. So Kentucky was still closed down, but Indiana had opened before Kentucky, where you could have some gatherings, more people in the building, just had to be distanced. So there was a arena over in Indiana where Ohio Valley Wrestling was doing their TV tapings. So I went there because it was almost in my backyard, and talked to Al. And Al told him about the pictures and all that, and he should come meet Greg at the restaurant and all this. And he did. But that one time, Al said, "Hey, come watch the show." Okay, I'll come watch the show. Was in the back watching the show, and he goes, "Hey man, you want to come back next week and help me with the matches, agent a match or two?" Oh yeah, okay, yeah man, I will. So what he was doing, he was slowly pulling me back in, slowly, ever so slowly. He was being very cerebral. Al Snow, you got me. So one thing led to another, and one thing led to another, and another match led to another match. And then I started going more and more and more. And then Al asked me, "Hey, would you like to have a training session and show some of the guys, teach some of the guys?" Oh, yeah, absolutely. A little bit at a time. And this was last year, about this time last year, I think. About this time is when I started. And here we are a year later, man. I'm now the head trainer at Ohio Valley Wrestling. I'm helping produce the show. I'm helping agent matches for the show. I'm helping to write TV for the show. Oh, Al. Oh, you got me, Al. You got me. But so I'm back. I'm back at OVW. I started at OVW, left OVW, did my career, left my career, started another medical career, and then come right back. So my career is done full circle. And I'm back where I started in OVW to try and carry on my Uncle Danny's legacy of Ohio Valley Wrestling and give back to wrestling what wrestling's given to me, and share some of my experience and knowledge with some of these younger guys to hopefully get them where they want to go and do this for a living.
And you're doing a great job, the guy tuning in there. I watch it on the YouTube channel every week, and I love it. And some great young talents there. I mentioned to you off camera, Lucius Lawrence, Jesse Sorensen, big fan of Haley Jade, Tony Bezo, loads of great talents there. So I'm enjoying it every week.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. These guys are going to go places. There's some guys here that are going to go places, and there's another guy. Keep your eye on this kid, Cal Hero.
Yes.
Keep your eye on that kid. He's only 19 years old.
Didn't realize.
Only 19 years old, and the kid has got. There's this thing in wrestling we call it the it factor. You either have it or you don't. He's got it. So keep your eye on him. Everybody, keep your eye on Cal Hero.
Awesome. Good. So we're down to the final two segments. It's been a bit of a long one, but we've got two more segments. So we got Q&A. So we've been through a couple of questions, but we've got a few more. So another question by Scottish Juggalo. What was your favourite match in OVW?
Favorite match in OVW was probably my last match in OVW because we told a great story. It was built and the house was, they had to turn people away. Me and Dano worked a heck of a match, and it was my final match. Danny came out, of course, the Damage won the title. The crowd just went absolutely bonkers when he won. And then obviously after that, Rob Conway and the Revolution turned on me, left me laying. Danny saved me, picked me up, gave me the nod. And then Uncle Danny came out and we finally reconciled. It was just a great ending to my career at OVW. And that's one of the most memorable moments that I had there. But honorable mentions, yes. I worked with Chris Benoit there. That was the match that helped get me pulled up to the active roster to get taken a look at because Jim Ross was there and he watched the match. And a lot of that match was just called in the ring. We went out there and we worked. Some other matches were with Nick Dinsmore, some classic matches with him. So quite a few honorable mentions, but my favorite was probably my last one there.
And another question by, I think I pronounced this right, Shug Wilding. Favorite memories working in JBL's cabinet?
Oh man, there's a bunch. But probably, my gosh, that's a tough one because there's so many. Maybe when we won the titles again the second time, and when the most memorable moment was when me and Danny won, and we were walking back, and JBL came out and slapped me on the butt so hard, and I was like, "Oh man!" And he was like, he come out, and we were all celebrating. I won't forget that because I didn't see it coming, but man, did I feel it. You think you remember everything more than that? No, I remember that hands chopped to the butt, man. It stung, it hurt. He rocked it. So that's one of my most memorable moments in the JBL or in the cabinet.
Cool. And down to the last segment, best and worst. So basically, I'm going to list off a couple of topics, and you're going to tell me the best and the worst of each one. So we'll start off. Best referee you worked with?
Best referee? Oh, man. I don't know if I can. I'll tell you what. Jimmy Corderas.
Yeah.
There's the reason being he was Canadian, right? So one time me and Danny were working, and he comes up, and me and Danny were there. He comes up to us. You got 5 seconds. Get out. Get out. I was like, get out? What's out? Get out. So we were sitting there, we're sitting there wrestling. And when you're in the ring, we're in there having fun, right? When you can have fun doing what you do, that you're a pro. But then from that moment on, that was one of the most memorable moments with one of the referees that I've ever had was get out. If he heard this, he'd understand. He'd know it too.
Yep. Worst referee, or we can skip it if you want.
Worst referee?
If you want to skip it, we can skip it.
I don't think I really had a worst referee. I can't remember any moments that just made me go, "Good God, get out of wrestling." So I can't think of any. I'm sure there may have been some stinkers, but I don't remember.
Sure. We'll stay babyface on this then.
Thank you.
Favorite agent to work with?
Agent, man, I loved working with Fit Finley.
That is a very popular answer. A lot of people
Yeah,
says the same.
yeah, that was definitely by far my favorite.
Awesome. Favorite fan moment
Favorite fan moment?
or fan experience? Rather yourself as a fan or fans in general, where an experience with them.
Well, I'll tell you what, I said this before and I'll say it again. When I walked out WrestleMania 20, for that half of a second, I turned into a wrestling fan. That was my favorite fan moment.
Awesome. Let's get this one. Next one. Who had the best hygiene and who had the worst hygiene?
The worst hygiene. Man, that could go all the way back to OVW. That man, everybody, their gear stunk. And in OVW at the older building, it was such a small locker room. It was like a shotgun. It was like just a hallway, and you had all these guys in there and their gear that opened their bags. It would stink. I don't know if you've ever smelled stinky knee pads or gear after you'd go work and you'd forget that your gear was in your bag. You left it there all week and then you open it again. Oh, it reeks, man. So I'm going to say the OVW locker room back in the day, that everybody stunk. I mean, it was stanky. Woo. Horrible.
Who had the best hygiene?
The best? I don't know. Let's see. There's several guys. The thing
Cena.
about
Cena seems like a very hygienic person.
Orlando Jordan.
Yeah.
Yes, this guy would bring. He'd sit down in a locker room, and he would open up. If he had a table, he would put his creams. He would put his deodorant, and he would put his lotion and all that sitting out all nice and pretty. So, and he always smelled good. Always smelled good. So that would, in my eye, Orlando Jordan.
I've been meaning to reach out to Orlando for an interview. I would imagine he was a great guy to be around with.
He was, man. He was a class act, always nice, a true professional, just an all around good guy.
Cool. I'm definitely going to reach out to him. Favorite town to work in?
I liked Chicago always because the crowds were just ridiculous.
Yeah. Cool. Who had the best attitude backstage?
That's Scotty Too Hotty, I think.
Yeah.
Scotty Too Hotty.
He seems like a really good guy.
One of the best. I mean, there's a lot of guys that had great attitudes, but one guy that stands out in my mind is Scotty Too Hotty.
Awesome. Worst bump you've ever taken?
I was doing a show in the States after, I'd been done with TNA, done with WWE. I think it was up around Wisconsin area. And I worked the Iron Monkey guy. He had a tail. And I went to do a diving headbutt. And I twisted just a little bit to my left. And I landed wrong.
Right.
I didn't know it then, but 3 hours later, after I had been sitting in the car driving home and went to go get out to use a bathroom at the gas station, I went, oh God, oh, what is going on with my rib? I think I broke it, bruised it, something's not right here. So that would probably be the worst bump I ever taken, because I've never really hurt myself in the ring ever. But that'd have been the first time.
And last one to lead us off. I don't know if you've already answered it earlier, but if you've got another one, it'd be great. Favorite Vince McMahon story?
Oh man, a Vince McMahon story. I got how about a great Stephanie McMahon story?
Go for it.
All right. Me and Danny had this idea, and we wanted to share it with Stephanie because she was the SmackDown GM at the time. And I got a Vince McMahon story for you too, but I like this story. This one's more entertaining. So at the time, Stephanie she was very, very well, endowed, right? And she had on this like V-neck sweater that was kind of loose. And we asked Stephanie if she had some time that day, could we sit down and chat with her for a minute? She said, yeah. So she came and got us. Said, come on, boys, I got some time. Let's sit down and talk. So she got a chair and sat down, and me and Danny got a chair and sat across from her. And we're sitting there talking and all this. We're telling her about the idea that we had and some things that we would like to do and all that. And she had like this like book, like a clipboard or whatever. She put the clipboard down on the ground and took her elbows and put them down on her knees and leaned over. And when she leaned over, you know, her shirt just kind of opened, right?
Nice.
I had never stared at somebody in the eyeballs and never broke that stare. Even when she looked at Danny, I followed her eyes. So when she turned back to me, it was eyes to eyes. I had never, ever stared someone so hard, so long in the eyes. And then finally, when she was done, she got up and said, all right, boys, go talk to Hunter. Just whatever, and walked off. So when she was done, me and Danny was still sitting there, and we put our chairs up, and we both turned to each other at the same time, and we didn't even have to say nothing.
Yeah.
I went, you didn't, did you? He goes, no, you didn't, did you? I said, no, you didn't, right? He goes, no. Oh, my God, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a good story to tell, but, I mean, I don't know. I think she was ribbing us because she knew. And because she's got a funny personality too, and I know she had to have known. I know. I mean, but Lordy, it's our boss.
Yep.
It's the boss's daughter.
That's strong willpower. I'll give you credit.
Yes. It was easy. It was easy to do. I'm not breaking eye contact. You are not going to get me. So that's probably my best McMahon story that I have.
Awesome. Well, Doug, I've took more than enough of your time. Thank you very much. We do go tell everyone where they can find you on social media, and if you want anything, if you got anything to plug away, please do so.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook. Friend request me, and adding people left and right. I think I will I'll start a Twitter account here soon because I'll be able to have more fans or more followers on Twitter than I can on Facebook. And there's a lot of stuff happening here in Ohio Valley Wrestling for the future that I might want to make sure gets out there. You can always catch Ohio Valley Wrestling overseas. You can catch us on YouTube, you know, for the shows, or you can catch us on the Fight TV network, the FITE. You can get the app and put it on your phone, and you can watch the TV show live as it happens every Thursday night. Here in the States, it's from 7 to 9. I'm not for sure what that would be over in your neck of the woods, but you can catch us there. And if you're here in the States and you're hearing this podcast, you know, you could go to ovwrestling.com and check out our road schedule and see if we may be coming to a town close by. And if you guys do come to a show, I'm usually the road agent, one of the road agents. Please come up and say hi, and let's take a picture and introduce yourself, and let's become friends.
Awesome. Well, Doug, absolute pleasure to speak to you. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully, do it again one day.
You got it, buddy. Thank you for having me on the show, pal.